What's going on, everyone? We'll do a quick mic check here before the ticker counts down to 0 and we go live, like fully live, like all the way live. Show's gonna be pretty busy tonight. Got a little bit of a bombshell of announcement that happened this afternoon we're gonna cover. Got a new product. All sorts of fun stuff to talk about tonight, and Hot Rod Magazine's article. Oh, microphone was off. Here we go. Now we're live. We're live. Had to make a quick announcement on social media to see if we can get some more people in here, so a little bit of a delay there. How's everyone doing tonight? I trust everyone is doing amazing and swimmingly. All right. See if we get some more people in here before we get rolling. We're going to have a busy show tonight, as I was talking about here while the countdown ticker was going. Last night, got the mail and opened up my latest Hot Rod Magazine issue, the one with the outrageous malaise on it. Started reading through it, obviously, in my reading room, which is the guest bathroom in early morning hours, as we all probably do in our own homes. And found an article in the back there that was pretty interesting about Coyote swaps. So we're going to go page by page. We're going to read the article and actually go over what they suggest, what they bring up, and then expand upon that, because they're not wrong. There's more than one way to skin a cat, but we're going to be covering some other options because obviously they're limited to how many pages they can and words they can put on those pages when they write these things. What else we're going to talk about tonight? Let's see. We're going to be talking about a new bracket that we got in-house from Midway Mustang for the PCMs. We're also going to be talking about my own Coyote Swap Coupe. The differential project has begun. It's going to be a new video series where we're talking about that real quick. What else are we going to talk about? That's right. Oh, we got a big announcement from Lund Racing as far as tuning. We're going to cover a little bit of that. I'm not going to go super deep into it because it could be an hour-long show upon what's going on there, but we're going to talk about how it's going to impact what we do here at PBH, potentially what you have already set up with them. So, based on what they posted on social media today. So, welcome. Thank you for joining me tonight. My name is Frank Perdomo. I work here at Power by the Hour Performance. We are in West Palm Beach, Florida, right at the end of the airstrip here at Palm Beach International Airport. We are Coyote swap specialists, 6R80 specialists, and even 10R80 specialists, dabbling into the Godzilla stuff as well. We do this live show every Wednesday night at 7 o'clock Eastern to cover tech topics, product updates, and just basically chat with our friends that are here in the chat room. A lot of them are our customers. A lot of them are potential customers, maybe just dabbling into Coyote swaps. Maybe you already did a Coyote swap, looking to change something. Maybe something didn't come out right. This is a really good place to interact with us directly and get direct answers to what you're encountering or maybe what you want to do and see what the rest of the community is doing. And you can do it all live. The chat room is rolling. I can't get to everything that's in there as it gets too busy. As you can see, my friend Alejandro Flores just used the 6R80, or excuse me, the super chat, the 6R80, the super chat. That is a paid question. We always cover paid questions. So you can get in there for, I think as cheap as like $2 to ensure that your topic is covered. And you can put in there, I think his maximum is like $300 or whatnot. So feel free to donate to the channel and make sure that your topic is covered. If you don't want to do that, no problem. If you don't get the answers to your question in the chat room, you can post a comment on this video. That'll help us out greatly. You can also email us, info@pbhperformance.com, frank@pbhperformance.com. You can call us Monday through Friday, 561-737-2331 from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. We got 4 guys on the phone. Other than me, you got Frank Pezzo, Christian Papa, and Travis Dean. All super qualified and experienced guys to help you with anything you need, whether it be tech, or product, or projects, or trying to map out a whole powertrain for your upcoming project, shops, customers, whatever. We do have wholesale and so forth as well. So feel free to reach out to us with any questions or concerns or compatibility questions, because that's important too. Let's say hello to some people. I think I lost the early chat, the people that said they were first around like 3 o'clock. I'm sorry. So we're going to go with what's right there right now, and that's Wild Horse 5.0. What? Am I right? Yeah. Well, I don't think he was first because he's put down that he was first place loser. I think he was second. Whoever was first, I don't know who it was. But Steve Scheckenberg's in there now too. 2000 MCR. What's going on? Brooks Young, how we doing, brother? GT CS50's got a question we'll cover here as soon as we get a chance. Jaime's Garage, how we doing? How we doing? Jordan Dunning, a regular as well. Jose Delgado, how we doing, brother? Christopher Anderson. Oh, thank you for the comment on the intro video. That's a culmination of multiple intro videos over the years, slammed them together, and made that badass piece of cinematography. Thank you. El Tartar says he's first-time poster, long-time listener. Finally made it. Love the show, Frank. Thank you very much. Thank you for supporting us. Thank you for being here. It means a lot to us. Let's see. Desert Coyote 50. Yep. He reiterates what that guy said. Thank you very much, guys. Richard McPherson, I watch every week on Thursday morning at work. First time I've made it to the live show. Oh, welcome, Richard. We got a lot of newbies in here today, guys. You guys got to welcome these guys and treat them nice. Be good to them. I know I will be. 2000 stars a check. Oz Cars, we were talking earlier about some gauges you're working on. Wild Horse 50. Jaime's Garage. Yeah, we were saying loud and clear. Yes, the reading room is usually the toilet. In the morning, before, during, or after a cup of coffee. Andrew Hanlon, what's going on, brother? We were conversing a little bit last week about potentially doing some transmission stuff. I don't think I'm gonna do it, but we'll see. You never know. Brailsford Rides, how we doing? Lorenzo Enzo, how we doing, brother? Let's see. Foxcast Media in the house. If you guys don't know who Foxcast Media is, look it up. Foxcast Media, the Foxcast. A lot of really good content there. Caleb and Jeremy do a great job. Do a lot of Coyote swaps and they cover it. But Alejandro Flores chiming in the super chat. We'll read what he had to put. Supporting the man that has helped me with my Fairmont and has had a huge hand in my success in Florida. I love you, Frank. Well, thank you, man. That's thank you. That's very nice of you. I appreciate that. It's been my pleasure, and we'll keep doing it, man. I might be we'll see. Might be rolling out with you to Texas here in a couple weeks, I guess. March Texas 2K. If any of you guys are in Texas, hopefully you're thawing out, and hopefully your power bill isn't $16,000, and hopefully you survived with all your digits during the big freeze. So the weather is kind of crazy. It's cooling down here. Hopefully it stays at least like this, because I have an autocross Friday night, and the autocross is out at PBIR. They're in a swamp. Mosquitoes, heat, humidity. It's never fun. Make the best of it, because can't really complain, but we'll be out there. We'll be out there for sure. All right. Some more introduction. Oh, Jeremiah Camps joined us. Isaac Thiessen. Insane Mustang. Listen. Wild Horse 50 is touching on something we're going to talk about actually right away, because it just came out this afternoon. Lund Racing is still open for business. Everything's up and working. Yes, there's open. There's all sorts of stuff going on, government-related stuff. I'm not going to get too deep into that. I just want to cover the impact of what's going on as far as how we can take care of you as a customer and how they're going to continue to take care of you as a customer. And we'll see where the dust settles once everything's done. Right now, everything's just kind of in the air, not really finalized, like a lot of things that are involved with the three-letter division of the government that we're talking about there. I'm not sure. Alex says that Cars and Coffee at PBIR is on Friday. I thought it was on Sunday, but maybe it's going to be busy as hell, because we're out there Friday night on the 26th. Yeah, Friday night. So obviously, if Cars and Coffee is out there, we're on the autocross course. Everyone's going to be watching the autocross because we're such badasses. And Christopher Robinson chiming in. It's not. It could. Well, I hope it's not the DEA or the ATF. All right, guys. Chris Shifts. What's going on? All right. So the reason we're talking about Lund Racing is today they made an announcement that they are changing some device compatibility with their tuning. Now, this is fresh to me. I don't have all the info on the new device. Alex might be able to chime in on that in particular for additional information, but I'm going to cover how it's going to impact stuff right now. Now, a couple weeks ago, a couple months ago, or a month or so ago, we announced that the N gauge was gone. It was kaput, no longer new N gauges. So the next device that we're going to, or basically revert back to, was going to be the SCT tuning device. So we started loading up on X4s, and we started selling X4 tuners. Guys were doing their data logging with it and so forth. But because there's some investigating going on, and there's some potential CYA going on, the SCT X4 and SCT in general with Lund Racing, according to John Lund Jr. on his Facebook page, is basically done. So they're going to be moving to the HP Tuners RTD remote tuning device, as Alex just pointed out in the chat room, as their new tuning device. Now, I'll show you real quick what was said, and we'll read it so we all understand it together. All right, this is the announcement from John Lund Jr. It says, "Me again. We are making you all aware that as of Monday, March 15th, 2021, we have determined to suspend any SCT flash device or tuning sales. After that date, any customers using an SCT flash device to flash their vehicle will need to purchase an HP Tuners RTD or any compatible N gauge for continued tune support. HP Tuners related devices will require special license credits to create flash the vehicle. Most 11 to 17 vehicles we support are 2 credits, and most 18 and up cars and trucks are 4 credits. There are some exceptions with some of the F-150 models. You can go here to see the list of the supported vehicles and their credits, which there's a link. If you want to, I'll probably copy paste that link and put it in the description of this video so you guys can click on it if you're watching this video in replay. There will be no additional charges for transferring between devices for existing customers, as we have never done that in the past. The only additional charges that may be incurred will be if they are changing anything that requires additional extended tuning support. So that means if you're already beyond your tuning window with what you've paid for and you've made changes and you're moving to a new device, they're going to charge you for the additional support, which you would have had to pay whether you stay with the old device or the new one. Those will be the only flash device products supported moving forward. We understand this may be frustrating for some of you, but if they want to continue getting support from the best aftermarket Ford calibrators, they will eventually understand. We appreciate your support, and we will continue to adapt to this ever-changing aftermarket automotive environment. Absolutely. And if you guys don't know what is it called? The RTD. This is what it looks like. And it looks like it's probably going to be some Bluetooth-enabled app-based dongle that you plug into your OBD2 port. I imagine with this RTD, you may be able to get some of the Track app or Track Addict stuff as well, which previously wasn't really something that was tied into the N-Gage and the SCT and so forth. But obviously, things are changing in the tuning landscape, and they're prepared to go ahead and change with them to continue support and offer their services. So we're going to probably be dumping all of our X4s and getting hooked up with HP tuners tomorrow and buying credits so that we don't continue to sell X4s while we're in a transition period. So probably right after the show, I didn't get a chance to do it tonight, we'll probably be taking down the tuning from the website, which I think it's actually already down right now. We have it down right now. And then we'll be repopulating it as soon as we get hooked up with HP tuners and get all that stuff figured out, our account and so forth, and buy credits. I don't have a ton of information on that. Once we get our hands on one, I'll probably try to get one for my own vehicle and just play with it, maybe do some tutorial videos or even talk about it here live on the show, what we're experiencing, how it works, so you guys understand what's going on. If you have an N-Gage, you heard it from the man himself, you're good. You can keep using your N-Gage. If you have an SCT, on that day, if you need a tune update, you have to buy a new device. So, if you're planning on buying tuning, don't buy an X4 right now because it's short-lived. If you can hold on a day or two, we'll get these RTD things figured out and start moving forward with them. We don't want to beach anybody with an X4 if they're not going to be able to use it in March. And if Lund's not offering support for it, most likely they're not going to be that valuable moving forward anyway. So this is a big announcement. I wish I had a ton more information about it. We'll probably have to cover it in next week's show, as it's going to impact a lot of folks out there that have their SCTs. But like they said, if you want to continue tuning support from Lund Racing, which is really the big valuable thing there. The device is kind of an inanimate object. It just has some bells and whistles to it. It's just a means to get their tuning support. If you value that like we do and see the value in that, then this is not really a big deal. It's a couple $100 more bucks. That sucks. Budget, save some money, maybe not go out to dinner here and there, or buy an extra movie online, or maybe cancel a subscription to one of your movie channels and so forth, and you'll be back to getting that device and moving forward. So it's unfortunate, but because it's an ever-changing landscape in the tuning world, in the automotive world, the automotive aftermarket in general, this is just one of the changes we're going to have to roll with. It's going to be basically rolling with a punch, and it may be the beginning to this being the new norm. It could be more changes down the road. There may be changes that affect some, but don't affect others. We do a lot of Coyote swaps. A lot of the stuff that's going to affect the stock vehicles may not affect us. Check engine lights and stuff like that may be part of the new tuning normal. So we'll reveal more information as it becomes available, but I want to definitely cover that because that is hot off the presses, ready to roll. This is a new norm for everyone. And I see the chat room going off. I think Alex is answering a lot of comments in there, and I'll let them keep rolling. So I will also announce that tonight I will be drinking a beer. This one is from Winwood Brewing, and it's called Father Francisco. My real name, not just Frank, real name is Francisco. My name is Francisco Fabian Perdomo. So I always was intrigued by this beer, and I picked it up, and it's a Belgian-style golden ale. Nice, easy drinking beer, but if you look closely, it is 9.3. Look out, ladies. It's going down. That's a smooth 9.3. I think Alex would even enjoy this. He doesn't drink. I would say he doesn't enjoy drinking. I don't know if he doesn't. Anyway. So, new product. New product. Now, we've carried the Midway Mustang PCM brackets for a while. Gen 1, Gen 2. Originally, he thought the Gen 2 brackets were going to work with the Gen 3s as well. That didn't prove to be the case. But he came out with a Gen 3 bracket. So, here is a Gen 3 PCM. Mounted bracket. The design is kind of based off of Fox bodies. So this bracket, excuse me, will allow you to mount the PCM at a nice angle underneath your frame rail and then kick it up at an angle. That way you can tuck the wiring under the frame rail into the PCM so it looks like it's just disappearing under the frame. He does include hardware to fasten it, the PCM, to the bracket, but they do not include hardware to fasten the bracket to the frame. That is up to your discretion. I don't think you're going to get away with self-tappers here. So riv nuts, through bolting, that kind of stuff, even grinding this down and welding it if you have to, is going to be your best option for mounting it to the chassis itself. Being mindful of mount or where you're putting it as far as how far your wiring can reach. He does mention in his listing that the Gen 3 wiring is a little bit tighter than Gen 1 and Gen 2, and you may have to extend it to get it in the right place. You also don't want to mount this thing so close to the suspension that if you turn the wheel, your tires and wheels are touching the PCM itself. That's going to end up as a bad day. Also, keep in mind where you mount it. If you have a blown tire, you don't want to rip your PCM and all your wiring to shit. So, new product. It's part number ACC 1192 on our website. It's the same price as the other brackets. They're $89.99. They are in stock here at PBH. So, if you want one, need one, we're looking for one. We got them. They're ready to ship. I even got one here in my hand. Took the pictures of this bad boy today. And it comes a wrinkle finish powder coat. So it's pretty resistant to rust and stuff like that since we're putting it under the car. What else do we have set up here before we get into the article? Because I'm basically going to read the article to you guys. Someone asked me for a link to this article in Hot Rod Magazine. There is no link. I believe I just got this in the mail, so it's only in print right now. HP Tuners, Hot Rod article. Okay, so we've been talking about my car and the wrap and all that stuff. I did get the first rendering today from CRD Wraps. We discussed it. There's going to be another rendering tomorrow. We're going to see what's going to be best. We're probably going to have 3 or 4 renderings. It might even be something I put up to you guys to tell me what I should put on the vehicle. You do have the opportunity, once we know that everything is set in stone, we're going to set up a way for you guys to be viewer sponsors. We've talked about this in the past. There'll be a set price to put your name and your avatar on the deck lid with a thank you message from us to you for helping us make that happen. You'll also get a commemorative hat. So that hat will be designed loosely, most likely, as the wrap is designed so that it looks similar. And it's going to be something commemorative, limited edition. You're only going to get a chance at it once. I'm not going to make multiple ones of them. And it'll be a thank you to you guys for helping me get that wrap on the vehicle, help me get to these events. Now, speaking of that car, we've been talking about the Pro Touring full floater differential that I'm putting in that car, modifying my 8.8 to accept that. There isn't a whole lot of tech out there for that. So I've decided to do a video series on our YouTube channel, and we're going to be filming it. I'm going to go step by step. We filmed the teardown the other day. Right now it's going pretty good. We did run into a little bit of issue with the pinion. Doesn't really want to come out. I will share this one photo because I think it's hilarious and we were laughing about it the other day. But this is just a sample of what's going on right now. And if this almost should be a caption contest as far as what the hell is going on here. I'm screaming, going, I don't think this is going right. Mike is swinging a sledgehammer to try to bust the pinion loose. Jake's looking in absolute disgust. Right behind there is Alex laughing his ass off because we're all reacting differently. And that gentleman with the glasses back there, that's John. He's actually our landlord who lives right in front of the building here and is always over hanging out with us. And he's just going, oh shit, what the hell's going on here? And I'm getting ready to catch a pinion that's probably going to come out at 150 miles an hour potentially. So, yeah. Differential, I filmed taking it apart. I'm doing the voiceover for that. It'll be the next video on our YouTube channel. I also have Denny Sullivan's car here, and we'll be finishing up a video that we promised on his car. But yeah, that was a lot of fun the other night. We talked a lot of shit. And he actually was filming Jake lowering La Mamalona, and some of the differential stuff ended up in the footage for that. So definitely check it out on Alex's channel as well to see what's going on at PBH after hours, not just PBH live. All right. So this is the new Hot Rod magazine. And I was flipping through this, and I ran across the article that I wanted to talk about here tonight, because there's no one way to do a Coyote swap, but this was a reader that had written to them asking them to cover this. And what the reader had asked, and I'll try to put it on the screen here, so if you guys don't have the article, you can kind of follow along with what I'm going with. Here's the first page of the article, and you see right below that picture, it says, Adam Birch asks, who can build a 1,000 horsepower turbocharged Street Ford Coyote engine and trans in a 1994 Mustang GT? It's a little chopped up of a question. I think really the way the question was, hey, I'm looking to Coyote swap my 1994 GT, and I wanted to have 1,000 horsepower turbocharged, and what transmission should I run? Who can build that engine for me? What parts I can use to get the swap done? And who can build the transmission for me? Because there's very few places that are going to build an engine that does that and also offer transmission building. And we all know there's different K members and ways of doing this. So we're missing a lot of information here. But what the article says here at the bottom, question, I'm looking to swap an engine in my 1994 Mustang. My goal is to Coyote swap it and turbo boost it to make 1,000 horsepower. What transmission would you recommend that would hold up that much horsepower? Where do you suggest buying the engine and trans? Now here comes the answer from Marlon Davis. Run 1,000 horsepower on the street, no problem. When I got my driver's license back in the 1970s, it was a big deal if you had 500 horsepower on the street. Now, the new normal is 1,000 horsepower. Yes, it is totally possible to get that much power. Much and more. Oh, I lost my place here. My phone's vibrating. Okay, good. Let's see here. Yes, it is totally possible to get that much or more out of the boosted Ford Coyote 5-liter engine on unleaded premium pump gas. Maybe not. Probably not. Yeah, I don't think you're going to make 1,000 on premium pump gas. No. And drive it around the street. So says Wile E. Coyote engine expert and builder Tim Eichhorn at NPR Racing Engines. Now, maybe a flywheel number, but definitely not rear wheel number. And they do outline in the article 1,000 horsepower, and that's not rear wheel horsepower. I would say that's flywheel horsepower. So are we talking about 800 rear wheel horsepower on pump gas? That's going to be stretching. I would think Alex would agree with that as well. He says, expect to spend around $15,000, give or take, as of October 2020 if you supply the block and heads. The price could rise to over $20,000 from NPR if it supplies everything. It is possible to build late model transmissions to keep up with that much power, and there are at least a half dozen outfits that supply Coyote engine and transmission swap kits and parts. Now, they do have a nice comprehensive list of everyone who's mentioned in the article, which is a lot of people, and we're in there as well. But then they mentioned us as far as wiring and so forth. So we'll jump over to the next page, and they show a centrifugal supercharger on an engine stand. It says this is NPR Racing Engines Coyote use E85 and a Vortex centrifugal supercharger to make 1,155 horsepower at 7,600 RPM at 24 pounds of boost. Probably not a street car, I would say. Probably could street it. I mean, I street my car, and it's only got 400 horsepower, and it's a pain in the ass to drive, but that centrifugal, that big of a BOV, that intake manifold, that whole setup there doesn't seem like it's going to hit me as street. Maybe a loose interpretation of street, I would say. Let's see here. At the 1,000 horsepower level, the Coyote engine's biggest issue is the production block. Whether 2011 to 2014 Gen 1, 15 to 17 Gen 2, 18 to present Gen 3, it's a little weak near the tops of the cylinders, which we all know about that stuff. Although there's no streetable, meaning with full water jacket aftermarket block available, Darton cylinder sleeves will fix the issue. You must leave all 8 cylinders. And they show Tim, looks like he's degreeing some cams there. And the caption is, Tim Mycorn and son Tyler routinely build 1,000 horsepower plus turbocharged, supercharged Street Coyote engines that run on premium unleaded gas. They build those other guys' late model engines too, which is probably talking about GM LS stuff that they do as well. So yeah, will it run on pump gas? Yes. Low compression, all those things, and boost levels. But let's say you stay stock compression, maybe a little bit more to make this extra power. You're going to need octane at 10, 11 psi. And we're not talking about 93. We're talking about E85 or race gas. So whether that 10, 11 psi nets you 700 ruble horsepower or more, that's usually where you're going to hit the wall once you get north of that boost number. So I struggle to understand what they're saying as far as 1,000 horsepower on pump gas. If you're doing it with a low compression engine, it's going to just take more boost to get there. So I don't think it's possible on pump gas. We don't have a big block Chevy. We don't have a Godzilla. So we're talking about a 5-liter Coyote. So, all right, let's get back into the article itself so you guys can follow along here. Next page. Here we go. And they show the Darton sleeves and the caption there. The 11 to 18 Coyote blocks are weak near the top of the cylinder bores. For 1,000 plus horsepower, replace the thin factory sleeves, which they don't have sleeves. They're basically plasma bore. They just gut that stuff out and push these sleeves in there. With thicker, stronger Darton sleeves. Sleeveless 18 and up Coyote blocks have plasma sprayed cylinder walls that can't be honed for new pistons. So you'll likely have to sleeve them all. I believe that's actually applying to all Coyotes. None of them that I know of ever came sleeved from the factory. So they show a turbocharger. You can get the job done through get the job done up through 1,000 horsepower with a large single Borg Warner or precision turbo, but smaller twins are better for street drivability. I agree with that. This is a precision 6266 ball bearing turbo. 2 of them in a Hellion Turbo Systems Eliminator kit made 780 rear wheel horsepower at 10.5 psi bolted on a Boss Coyote engine. So I had the Boss intake and so forth. Basically a Gen 2 engine because the Boss engine had the upgraded rods and pistons. It also had CNC ported heads, upgraded valve springs, and camshafts. So what that means is don't expect this out of all Gen 1 engines. Maybe Gen 2, but even Gen 2s didn't flow as good as those Coyote Boss 2 cylinder heads. So don't expect those numbers out of a stock GT engine. Let's see here. That's at least 940 horsepower at the flywheel. Turn up the boost to 15 psi and you'd be past $1,000. So let me do the quick math here. So they're saying 780 rear wheel horsepower. They're saying that there's a 20% drivetrain loss in a Coyote. That's pretty generous. Yeah, 780 rear wheel horsepower, add 20%, that's 936. So I don't see that much powertrain loss from a manual. I don't think you're going to get that much powertrain loss out of a 6R80 or a 10R80 either. I would probably want to keep that number closer to 10% and then be conservative at 15. At 20%, it's pretty much, to me, that's a little bit of an embellishment for most people. So let's get into the article here and get out of those captions real quick. All Coyote engines come with a decent forged steel crank, that is true, but good aftermarket connecting rods and pistons are mandatory at 1,000 horsepower. Belt-driven superchargers have been known to twist off the stock crank snouts at high boost levels. Maybe not. No, I haven't seen that. I mean, if I go basically off our experience, no. I've seen GT500s have that issue. I've seen Coyotes with centrifugals have that issue. because of the belt tension and so forth, but I haven't seen any of the VMP blowers, loose cranks, any of the Roush blowers, Whipples. Maybe we are not seeing a good sampling. I haven't really heard of that being a major issue. The GT500s, like I said, they had more of an issue that we knew of, but we never encountered it ourselves either. So, Icorn says the most cost-effective workaround is adding a double keyway. Double keyway. I laugh because there's some history there. A double keyway on the snout to better withstand blower drive pulleys induced forces. Cranks with a better snout are available from Callie's, Bryant, and Wimberg. So basically, yes. If you had a single key, which is factory, and you were aiming for 1,000 plus, your engine builder, I would really hope would be putting double keyways. That's usually pretty standard. In fact, the ATI balancers are usually used for overdrive, come set up for that right out of the box. So if you get an ATI balancer and your engine builder doesn't add that second keyway, then they're missing out on adding a lot of rigidity to your combination. Let's see here. Or don't worry about the snout and go turbocharger route. A turbo is the best way for a Coyote, Icorn says. They are more linear than a supercharger. On the other hand, a turbo and all its associated parts is more expensive. Other than the supercharger snout issue, which could be debated, the stock crank with good aftermarket rods and pistons is good enough, good through 1,215 horsepower. The stock 4-valve heads flow so well, Icorn says, all they need is better heat-resistant valves, bronze valve guides, and upgraded valve springs, which I agree on all that stuff. As far as the turbocharger, one thing that tends to be left out as far as it being an option, obviously we know that it's more efficient and can make more power. Twins can do that as well. Packaging and what you want to do under the hood also becomes a big thing to worry about, right? This guy was asking about a streetcar. Now, he doesn't mention who's doing the installation. He doesn't mention if he knows how to weld and how he's going to make everything fit. Is it going to be AC? If it's a streetcar, I would expect it to have air conditioning and power steering, one way or the other. So packaging this stuff, you're not going to find a complete Coyote turbo kit for a Coyote swap that's A1, perfect fit every time. You're going to have to doink, cut, rub, massage something for it to fit. And that's just the name of the game. I mean, even the Hellion systems, you're going to have to play with it and align things and get things to fit right. You're going to have to cut things and make things work and fit. So the same goes for Coyote swap. But now we have a Coyote engine, let's say, in a 94 Mustang, which for the most part, even NA, is 10 pounds of shit in a 5-pound bag. You add a single turbo that now you want to fit between the radiator and the engine, and it's a big one too, that's 62, 66, we're going to move some shit. We're going to have to make some room. And we're going to have to make sure we clear our power steering pump, our AC compressor, all the hoses for that. We're going to have to put an intercooler in the front that's a mean intercooler because you want to make sure it stays cold. It's going to be air to air unless you go water air, which is more race stuff. But you still have a condenser, an oil cooler, a power steering cooler potentially. If you're running Hydro Boost because you can't run vacuum brakes. If it's a street car, I would think you're going for power assisted brakes. So there's a few caveats there that aren't being mentioned. Yes, if it's a stripped down, kick-ass race car, a lot easier. You can even run a smaller radiator and get rid of all that stuff and run a 4-inch core from Bell and rock on, dude. But this is about a street car. And if it's a street car, AC, power steering, power brakes. All right, there's one more picture on that page before we move on. Let's get back to that. And it says one of the secrets to run 15 to 16 psi of boost with turbos on pump gas is a big intercooler. IATs are definitely going to help. 15, 16 psi on pump gas. No, I haven't seen that. I haven't seen that be an option unless it's uber efficient, which usually brings the boost number down. So I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something there. Next page. Here we go. You can even slide by with the existing OE camshafts, which with better springs will run to 8,000 RPM plus. Boost optimized aftermarket camshafts will help over 15 psi, where a little more overlap is generally beneficial. beneficial to relieve back pressure when running a turbo. Now, they mentioned a single turbo. The reason why there's so many twin turbo systems out there is if you go to a small single, you're going to have back pressure issues. You're going to plateau your power gains, usually in the higher RPM area, around 6,000, 6,500 RPM. You go with twins that are responsive and small, and there you get rid of the back pressure issue. So a single turbo has to be plus size to not have that back pressure issue, and the tubing and the routing of everything has to be beneficial as well. On the street, Icorn recommends retaining the Coyote's VCT, independent variable cam timing. That's the benefit of a factory cam. So yeah, keeping your VCT, obviously the drivability is going to be better. I don't think the durability is going to go away, but obviously if you're going to go to make big power, going to that larger camshaft, then the VCT is going to go out the window anyway. They got a picture of a Weisico rod here and piston. 1,000 horsepower assembly needs good rods and pistons. The MPR build used Weisico rods plus JE pistons with strength enhancing electroless nickel coating. But Icorn says Manly, JE, Mall all have good stuff too. Lately, MPR has had good luck with Manly's strong but relatively affordable H-beam, H-tough connecting rods and ARP bolts. Let's go into Coyote engine management, which is, I think, where we get mentioned a little bit here or there. Using a Coyote engine trans take-out pair from the same car allows using all Ford engine management system to integrate both the engine and trans and tweak everything to your heart's content, just like brand new factory cars, including tuning VCT characteristics and controlling late model transmissions. For emissions-exempt retrofit use, Ford Performance FPP sells various retrofit control packs that include a wiring harness, an unlocked ECU, a drive-by-wire accelerator pedal that manages both the engine and trans keyed to the individual vehicle. So basically a control pack. Be sure to check Ford Performance's website, as there is now broader coverage, including support for the new 10R80 transmission with the Gen 3 engine than what is shown in its 2020 printed catalog. Whether the ECU and harness are out of a production car, or if you're using Ford retrofit hot rod harness and computer, SCT is one source for a computer tuner program, but there are others as well. Naturally, what we talked about earlier, depending on who is doing your tuning, that SCT may or may not be an option. What we know is out there is HP tuners, SCT, and then the older N gauges. Here we are, power by the hour. PBH also offers a variety of wiring harnesses for all Coyote transmissions and generations, as well as the 07 to 14 GT500, 5.4, and 5.8 dual overhead cam modular engine. It also offers retrofit Coyote aluminum radiator and fan packages and cross members for late model transmissions, including the 10R80. Baumann, through the US Shift division, has a standalone controller for the 6R80 if you're using an aftermarket computer. Yes, if you're using an aftermarket computer like a standalone that doesn't have provisions for controlling your 6R80, the US Shift is an option. I would say to date it has not proven to do everything the way the factory computer does. The day that becomes a reality, then awesome. It's going to be great. It's going to be killer, and a lot more guys are going to have 6R80s behind big block Fords and Windsors and stuff like that, killing it out there, 3 valves, all that stuff. But we haven't really seen that come to ultra fruition. They're still working on it. And now we get excited. Whoa! Can late model OE transmissions take 1,000 horsepower? While no out-of-the-box stock or even big-name aftermarket street transmission can routinely handle that much power reliably, believe it or not, the modern late model transmissions Ford installed behind the Coyotes are up to the task when properly beefed up. Yes, today it's possible to eat your street cake and have your electronic transmission too, complete with drivetrain management, but you'll need to decide if you want to go manual or automatic. Well, naturally, you're going to have to know if you're going to go auto or manual. You know, there's going to be a big difference there, right? Now, they get into the MT82 and the 6R80 here in a second, but obviously, if you're going to have 1,000 horsepower and you're going to try to run at the track and be street-minded, it's going to be limited. I don't think the MT82 is always going to be on the table at that 1,000 horsepower because, let's face it, if you're making 1,000 rear-wheel horsepower, you're probably making 1,200 to 1,400 flywheel. Now, I don't know if the MT82, even with Calimer's upgrades, is really up to that task. They do talk about it in here, but I think they're talking about 1,000 horsepower, like flywheel, which, as you've seen with their math, is really about 780 rear wheel horsepower. 780 rear wheel horsepower, that Calimer transmission can do the job. But again, we're talking about a 94 GT. Shifter and drive shaft are potentially going to be a problem. They're potentially going to be an issue as far as fitment and making it work with your console and lining things up. There are shifters out there. MGW and Forma cars make one. I think there might be some other ones out there to bring that shifter forward on the MT82. But from what I've heard, it's not a perfect fit. You're still going to have to modify the tunnel to make it work. And yes, you will need a CV style drive shaft, especially a badass one, because we're talking about making 780 rear wheel horsepower, which according to Hot Rod Magazine is 980 flywheel. So let's go back. Let's keep digging here. They say what it takes for a late model Coyote automatic trans to survive 1,000 horsepower, sipping on Father Francisco. Forced induction drive, thank you very much. I see that super chat, brother. I appreciate the support. Thank you. We will. The caption under the picture of the 6R80 says, Ford 6R80 6-speed automatic transmission can do the job at 1,000 horsepower with Circle D 300M billet steel intermediate shaft and upgraded clutch packs. Looking at the automatic first, Circle D transmission, David D builds both the 2011 through 2017 6R80 and the 2018 and later 10R80 automatics. Dolegsi says the 6R80 intermediate shaft becomes marginal above 550 horsepower at the tire. Circle D offers a 300M steel replacement that solves that problem. Around 600 horsepower, the stock clutch packs start to fail. First to go will be the clutch pack E, sometimes called the 3-4 shift clutches, followed by clutch pack B 3 to 5. Now we're going to go to the next page, but there is an oil pump caption here. The powder metal gears in the stock Ford Coyote oil pumps can fail on high horsepower engines. Livernois Motorsports is one of the source for replacement billet gears. We use the Livernois gears here ourselves. Absolutely, they work great. TSS is also a great source for that as well. I believe NPR sells some of their own, and then there's other companies. Let's see here. Continuing along. He's talking about the clutch packs, 3-5 reverse clutch. Circle D recommends uses Excetti clutch packs that have better friction materials and more modules. When everything is torn apart, some valve body mods will be in order as well. We sell kits for all this, Dolejci says. Or you can send the trans to Circle D and have the experts go through it. Expect to spend around $3,000 for a Circle D built 1,000 horsepower capable 6R80 as of September 2020. All right, I'm going to touch on this. Oh, I skipped. Here we go. I'm going to touch on this real quick. So 1,000 horsepower, which looks like 780, right? At 780 rear wheel horsepower, depending on how you're making power, some of the things they don't touch on there are the forward planetary, the forward shaft, and the rear one-way clutch. The center support drum as well. When we build a 6R80, we are going to do frictions and steels. We don't use the Excetti ones. We have a deal with Ray Bestis just for availability. They're equal. They're not one is going to be leaps and bounds over the other. I believe they both perform just about the same. There's different stack heights and things you can do like that and shims. They're particular to ours, but you're going to be good hands either which way you go, right? But you got to make sure you're adding clutches, not just use their stock off-the-shelf kits. The intermediate shaft, absolutely. 300M, everyone makes it out of 300M. No matter where you buy that intermediate shaft, if it's upgraded, it's going to be 300M. The center support drum is all aluminum. If it gets hot, it mars up and it rides on that main shaft, and it could end up with pressure issues and so forth. We modify ours, put a bronze bushing in it. You can buy it on our website. They also don't talk about the front pump. If you got a Gen 2 transmission and you're leaking fluid out the front, most likely your front pump's bad, and you're going to have to get your converter looked at. Modify that front pump. You got to do a hybrid. Gen 2 front pump, Gen 1 pump equipment bearing in the center. That'll keep it from happening again. We do offer that. It's not on our website, but for $400, we'll build you that pump, and you can upgrade your Gen 2 6R80 transmission. Gen 1s don't have to do that stuff. Gen 2 pumps, or excuse me, Gen 1 pumps don't bolt directly into Gen 2s. So they're not really covering all the bases there. But I would say if you're really making 1,000 horsepower, 780 rear wheel horsepower, like they mentioned here earlier, I'm gonna try to get you to budget for at least a forward planetary or the 4R200 hub, which they don't talk about here because the 4R200 hub, not really a street piece, but depending on your definition of street, it definitely can be. You know, just because it's a 3-speed, limited by tuning on a stock computer, maybe not with a Motec or future standalones that are out there, doesn't mean it's not a street car. Just means it's going to haul ass and not cruise well on the highway. Why is it not going to cruise well on the highway? Because at this kind of power, you need octane. And at $5, $10 a gallon for race gas or E85 with a small fuel cell, that's not a good option. But it depends on what kind of street car you're building, right? Let's see here. The 10R80 is the new kid on the block. It's Ford's implementation of the new joint Ford-GM collaboration on a new high-tech trans, GM's version of the 10L80 and the 10L90. Few, if any, performance hard parts are available yet for either manufactured version. But so far it seems to be a pretty stout piece under most hot rod scenarios. Dolej C reports the only broken 10R80s he's seen are out of heavy four-wheel drive trucks that paradoxically, that's a big word. That's a big word. I don't know what that one is. We'll skip that part there. Oh, here we go. We're lowered on drag radials turbocharged and subject to full spool hot launch at the drag. So they're talking about trucks like La Mamalona breaking the 10R80 because they're all-wheel drive and creating extreme loads. So the paradox. There's paradoxically, full-wheel drive trucks that are lowered and hauling ass, kind of like lowering a Jeep, right? Hello, Father. So that's where they're talking about the 10R80. Okay. Clutch failures start with the F clutch pack. The E clutch is next. If the trans is in good shape with low mileage, going through it for performance at 1,000 horsepower level will cost around $2,500 in parts and labor, because all you're doing is upgrading the frictions and seals essentially and replacing anything that's worn or out of sync. Naturally, any automatic transmission will require a torque converter that best matches the engine's combos and torque characteristics, which Circle D definitely is the number one source for that stuff when it comes to 6R80 and some of the 10R80 stuff as well. Next segment here, what it takes for a late model Coyote manual trans to survive 1,000 horsepower, which is 780. The manual transmission installed in nearly all 2011 and later Coyote engine Mustangs is the Getrag MT82 6-speed. It has proven durable, but like any trans, it needs enhancement to reliably live at 1,000 horsepower. Calimer Transmissions specializes in bulletproofing for the MT82. Ben Calimer, if he's listening, or someone he watches this video later on, how we doing, brother? We've used this product in the past, and it's excellent. For 1,000 horsepower, you will want the Stage 3 version with aggressive ceramic clutches and high shock engagement. I'm sorry, going blind here. A stocker tends to break the third and fourth gears, says owner Ben Calimer. Those gears will literally disintegrate, replacing the internal gears and input shafts with his own proprietary billet gears solves the problem. Most stock MT82s came with 23 spline input shafts that may snap under aggressive driving conditions. Calimer says his company's 23 spline replacement input is good for over 700 horsepower. Otherwise, step up to his 26 spline billet input on 1,000 horsepower monster motors. Other Stage 3 upgrades include bronze shift pads, a billet shift rail stop, cryo treatment, REM super polishing, and other synchros, seals, and bearings. That's a long sentence. Yeah, there's a lot of commas there. Although not quite up to it out of the box, the legendary Tremec T56 Magnum 6-speed transmissions and their 60/60 production relatives can be toughened up to withstand 1,000 horsepower. As a Tremec distributor, Calimer builds and distributes brand new versions of these transmissions. Too. Unfortunately, Calimer says that Ford hasn't used the Tremec T56 or 60/60 in any Mustang with a Coyote engine. The last stock 6060 Mustang applications were 2011 through 2014 GT500 Mustangs, but they still had dual overcam modular engines, not a Coyote. Nevertheless, the modular and Coyote rear block facing bolt patterns, mounting patterns, are the same, so a production-based Ford pattern 6060 behind the modular engines bolts right up. The advantage of the 6060 compared to the aftermarket T56 is that the 6060 has an integrated bell housing. Yep, definitely, and there's adapter bell housings for everything else. I lost my spot. Okay, so in theory, there should be no bell housing alignment and dial-in issues. On the other hand, unlike late model factory trans, the T56 Magnum 700 foot-pound rating out of the box retains provisions for both VSS and conventional gear-driven speedo hookup if you need to run an old school speedometer. But if you prefer a more conventional aftermarket Ford pattern T56 Magnum that works with the separate bell and don't mind dial indicating the trans and bell housing to the engine, a QuickTime SFI 6.1 certified bell housing is available. So yeah, I agree with all that. There's a couple transmissions they're leaving out, maybe. Obviously, at this power level, the TKOs may not be a great option. The T56 6060 is definitely going to be up there. The new TKX is rated up there along lines of these 6060s and these Magnums too, so maybe it wasn't out when they wrote this article, but they're talking about September 2020 and stuff like that. So TKX would be in there as a 5-speed option. Then you have some of the more racing-only options out there where they're face-plated and stuff like that, but we're talking about a street car. I would think it'd be fun, it'd be a lot of fun, but it'd be hard to be consistently fast every time with the stick car versus the 6R80 automatic, especially with the tuning that guys like Lund Racing can do. The MT82, I think, is going to be a fitment issue over really whether you want to use that one or not. A lot of guys are getting with their donor powertrains and when they're buying them. So if you have it, why not build it and get one from Ben Calimer, but then work through the progression of getting it to fit your 94 GT. Remember, we're working on a 94. They got some pictures here on the page. They talk about the Baumann controller. Let's see what they had to say about that. Baumann Electronic Controls, also known as US Shift, is famous for Ford circles for its electronic standalone transmission controls. The new Quick 6 Gen 2 supports Ford 6R80 transmissions, allowing the user to directly adjust shift points, firmness, torque converter engagement, and more. All true. The control packages do the same thing. I would say at factory levels, which have not been met with what we've seen in the aftermarket. The GetTrack MT82 6-speed is used behind most manual transmission equipped Coyote Mustangs. Calimer Transmissions offers a Stage 3 MT82 rated at 1,000 horsepower, 900 foot-pounds of torque. That's stout. And at the bottom is showing a bunch of Benz parts. Calimer's exclusive bill of gears are the key to making the MT82 live at extreme power levels. Both 23 spline stock Ford and 26 spline recommended at 1,000 horsepower. Input shaft options are available. Clutch spline count must match the input shafts. Absolutely. Next page, there's an MGW shifter. MGW specializes in CNC short-throw shifters for late model cars and transmissions, including this one from the Shelby GT500, Tremec 6060. Also good if you're putting a 6060 in an earlier staying. Yes, the MT82 is covered also. Parts are all precision aircraft made. They're excellent shifters. So they're going to start talking about getting into K members and stuff like that here, which was really interesting. We're going to keep rolling. We're not shutting off at 8 o'clock. We're going to keep rolling. You guys got a lot of stuff going on in that chat room. I'm going to have to watch this video later and see what was being talked about in there. Might be some shit talking. I like it. Okay, back into the article. Apart from the aftermarket pattern T56 Magnum, the T56 Magnum XL, any of these transmissions, whether automatic or manual, use a companion flange style output shaft. Note, not a conventional yoke. So basically, if you use an MT82, a 6060 from a GT500, yes, GT500, a 6R80, 10R80, CV style drive shaft, no conventional slip yoke. They will therefore need a custom drive shaft and or drive shaft adapter. All right, so they're using a word, Coyote engine swap kit. That phrase kind of haunts me a little bit because no one really makes kits because there's 1,000 different variables to them. There's small kits, you know, K-member kits, speed accessory drive kits like our speed drive and so forth, but they don't really get into that membered streetcar though. Availability and options. Let's see here. AJE, Hooker, Blackheart, Maximum Motorsports, Team Z, Stiflers, and UPR sell engine swap kits. So I guess we're talking about K-members to swap Coyote engine into the earlier Mustangs never so equipped. The 94-95 Mustangs are a little tricky because their layout is sort of a hybrid design that has characteristics of both traditional small block Ford equipped 79-93 Fox body Mustangs and later 96-99 SN95 bodied Mustangs that came stock with modular engines. Holley's Todd O'Neill explains 94-95 models basically combine the K-member and front suspension from the Fox body with transmission mounting and exhaust systems from the 96-99 cars. And they got a picture of an AJE K-member here. AJE suspension kits include new tubular number 2 cross member. AJE owner Anthony Jones says, or part number, accepts all factory suspension pieces and 99% of the aftermarket suspension pieces. AJE offers mounts and brackets to accept nearly every Ford engine in existence. If you can run coilovers or even the stock springs and lower control arm with available AJE parts. Oh, there's some more stuff up here to the top right of that shifter. The various aftermarket kits makers. The various aftermarket kit makers deal with these idiosyncrasies differently. That was a good one. Looking at AJE's offerings, for instance, its front number 2 crossmember fits the 94-04 Mustang SN95 chassis, whether originally equipped with the traditional 5-liter Windsor small block 94-95 or the Mustang modular engines 96-04. The engine mount plates that fit this crossmember are available from AJE for the 4.6 modular, the Coyote, and the EcoBoost 4-cylinder, the V6, the FE big block, 385 big block, and GASP, the Generals LS. Mount plate kit P and part number AJE-20 is one to use for the modular and the Coyote engines. If that's not enough, we're working on the mount. This is from a quote from AJE. We're working on the mounts for the new Ford 7.3-liter Godzilla motor right now. Ooh. AJE's engine mount crossmember is tubular. Oh, next page. Here we go. AJE's engine mount crossmember is tubular for added clearance and saves about 70 pounds over stock. You can keep the stock lower control arms and even use factory springs, or use AJE's tubular lower control arms and or just about everybody's coilover shocks. Okay, that's cool. They show some mounts here, and we have access to this stuff from Hooker. So I'm going to look into it a little bit deeper because they're talking about bolting Coyote engines in stock 94-95 K-members with stock front suspension, but they don't mention cutting anything. So I got to find out what the hell is going on here, because if that's the case, all these tubular K-members aren't needed. That'd be interesting. They show a picture of these motor mounts to mount the Coyote or modular engine to the AJE tubular cross member. Use its part number AJE-20 barrel style mount plates. If the poly bushings ever wear out, they still can't come loose. Okay, so that's pretty cool. Maybe something that you can even use universally for a custom chassis. Now they do show some pictures of some installation stuff. Shows driver and passenger there on the left-hand side. And the note on that, Hooker Blackheart Coyote swap brackets, part number 71221025 HKR. Fit stock 84-95 Mustang front number 2 cross. I don't know what number 2 cross member. The K member. Let's just call it K member. Using modded Prothane red or black polyurethane engine mounts, part number 6-504. Due to different engine perch top hole mounting geometry, these brackets don't fit stock 79 to 83 K members. Note how the driver's side bracket clears the original steering. Now, they're saying that with these motor mounts, you can fit a Coyote motor in a stock K member from an 84 to 95 Mustang, which is true. But what they're not mentioning is you have to modify the K member, the oil pan for that to happen, and potentially cut the shit out of the K member to make sure your headers fit if you're going to run headers. So I would not agree with the way this is stated in a way, because they're not saying you have to modify the stock K member, which we know you do. There's another picture here to the right. To keep the stock engine offset and elevation, Hooker Blackheart swap kits require the Holley part number oil pan. Okay, so they're taking care of the oil pan deal with the Holley oil pan. This photo shows Holley's 1999 Mustang development car. Behind the Coyote is a 4R70W automatic, which is supported by Holley's Terminator X and Dominator EFI engine management systems. And they show Stiflers. We offer the Stiflers cross member as well. Here at the bottom, Stiflers tubular transmission cross member with adjustable bolt-on mounting brackets. Install 6R80, 10R80 automatics and MT82 manual transmissions into the 7904, and it works with all the other transmissions as well. Let's see, and this is the end of the article here. So we'll go back to the top here. They mentioned Hooker Blackheart's Coyote swap kits take different approach. Its engine mounts and adapters 9495 Mustangs are the same as those called out for the 8493 Mustangs and are solely for use with factory stock K members and prothane polyurethane engine mounts. For transmission cross members in the 1994 to 95 models, use the ones called out by Blackheart for 96 to 98 Mustangs. They vary by trans, which this is what's always confused me. They got a bunch of different mounts, and there's nobody to talk to at Holley or Blackheart to figure out what the hell's going on. The engine and trans mounts and trans crossmember position the motor at the same exact height and offset as the OE Coyote installation, about 1 inch toward the passenger side. Hooker Blackheart's upside is that the stock Ford rear ends and transmission crossmembers are also offset from the center. Everything lines up as original. Sip of Father Francisco. Let's see here. Complementary Hooker headers, full 3-inch exhaust systems, and even special oil pan are also available. Other options are available to complement various aftermarket on-center engine and transmission crossmembers. As Hooker's Todd O'Neill puts it, when you go with Hooker Blackheart, you are buying matched parts from the same place. And if you'd rather have an aftermarket EFI setup, Holley Dominator EFI has you covered, as long as you don't have a 6R80. As of October 2020, Holley's EFI ability to control the 6R80 and 10R80 trans is still in the pipeline, quotations, though as of now, it can control the earlier 4R70W, which is no slouch if it's built. Hooker Blackheart regularly updates the extensive range of options and ever-growing parts compatibility list with other companies' engine and trans cross members on its website. So, the last mention here, never fear. Today, there are plenty of parts to ease swapping a Coyote engine into older Mustangs. It's almost as easy as going to a cafeteria and choosing your poison. Come to think of it, these days, even easier. Well, that is the entire article from Hot Rod. Now, I did start reading this part here, and this says, older men in Italy don't need Viagra. Now we know why. So I got to read this tonight or tomorrow morning during my coffee break. But, yeah. So, what do you guys think? There's a lot going on in the chat room. I don't know if everybody's even paying attention to me anymore. But I think the article touched on a lot of good points, a lot of basic stuff, and some of the intricate stuff as far as the engine stuff that Tim Eichhorn donated to the article. But it does leave out a lot, given I don't expect them to write a Bible in an article. So I wanted to cover that article because there is some good information in there. There's some stuff there that we haven't seen, obviously, as they're advertising it. The power levels and the pump gas, especially the California guys and some of the areas where you can only get 91 octane. That's not going to be a good combination for 15, 16 PSI. I don't think no tuner is going to sign up for that. That they're going to limit the shit out of your RPM. So 93 octane at minimum on all boosted. Um, 93 octane at minimum, and I would say even at stock compression, you're going to be limited to 10, 11 psi. I mean, that's what we've seen, and we're down. I mean, we're down here in kind of shitty air. Yeah, you go up to the mountains, and you're going to show 1,000 horsepower on the dyno, but you're not going to make it. You know, your ETs are going to match, what we see down here. So your power level's just skewed. E85 race gas is definitely going to be part of the equation once you get north of 650 real horsepower to 700 real horsepower, depending what engine you have and how you're making boost and what cams you have and stuff like that. You build yourself a $15,000 to $20,000 race engine, which, NPR, as good as they are, they're not the only guys in town that can build these engines. There's L&M Racing, there is Livernoise, there's a bunch of guys out there that are talented engine builders that can get those engines built and take care of you and work with you one-on-one on what your needs and wants are. So keep that in mind as well. We offer stock engines, illuminators. Illuminators can handle 780 real horsepower. You don't need a sleeved engine at that point, although it would be safer. You potentially would have less issues if you definitely want to lean on it. My rule of thumb is, if you want to have X amount of power, add about 200 to 300 more horsepower. Oh, there we go. Add another 200 or 300 horsepower, and that's what you should be building for. That way, you don't run into an issue where you don't have enough rod, you don't have enough piston, you don't have enough of this or that, and you got to go back into the engine, or you hurt it and potentially take out a blower or something like that, or a turbo in the meantime. So, hopefully, they did enlighten you to some new information in Hot Rod Magazine, who I subscribe to and love seeing them cover newer stuff. But there's definitely some stuff that was left out of that article. I'm glad we were part of it. I think we could have helped them out with a lot more information in there, but these articles are probably limited to a certain amount of space. So it's cool they're covering it. And I hope to see them do some more stuff, kind of like what Tony Angelo and Lucky did on Hot Rod Garage. If you haven't caught that episode on Motor Trend TV, watch it. They use a lot of our products, and that car is going to get a serious build from what Tony tells me as well. All right. So, it's 8:10. I can hang in here for a little bit if you guys have any questions that you want to post up real quick in the chat room that I can cover for you. In the meantime, I'm going to thank Matthew Plavidal. Matthew sent me the Coyote Swap Trio from Walmart that I wasn't able to find down here. He found it up in his area, and he sent it to me. It's on the wall right there. You can see all three cars. All three of them are Coyote swapped Fox bodies, and they're twin turbo. So the toy manufacturers know what's up. All right, so let's see if we have some questions in here. Built for Speed on Gen 1 and Gen 2 Coyote long tube headers. Is the X-pipe the only difference between the two? On Gen 1, Gen 2 Coyote long tube headers, I haven't seen a long tube header setup that has specific generation fitment. So headers that work on Gen 1 should work on Gen 2. And subsequently, if the mid-pipe is designed to work with those headers and fit your transmission, you should be able to use it. Now, I'm talking about Coyote swaps. If you're talking about stock cars, yeah, they're going to be different for the fitment. The K-members are different, and the mid-pipes are going to be different. So I would stick to your generation of header to avoid any issues with steering shaft clearance and that kind of stuff, and K-members and control arms. Jared Wells, any more 3-valve products coming out? I believe, for a 3-valve, probably not. 3-valve to Coyote swap, now you're talking. We know we got the accessory drive covered. We have some other things that we're thinking about working on. Maybe a new power steering reservoir bracket for the 3-valve guys, because the Midway Mustang one doesn't work with that. We're prototyping something there. And there may be something bigger, I would say. I don't want to lock into anything, But there might be something big or huge that we get involved with here in the future, but we'll see how that goes. Brailsford Rides, thanks for hanging in there, brother. Thanks for joining us tonight. Wild Horse 50, paying attention, Frank. Good article. Some things I think they're out to lunch on. I agree. I think the power numbers, they kind of showed what they're working with. 20% loss. I have not seen a 6R80 produce 20% loss. Maybe, some fucked up torque converter or something like that, but you're not going to see 20% loss. They don't lose that much power anymore. So their numbers may be a little skewed, and 1,000 horsepower needs to be clarified. Flywheel. It is flywheel horsepower, because rear wheel horsepower, that's a whole different animal. We're talking about making 1,200, 1,300 horsepower flywheel. You're not doing that on pump gas. I don't think you're doing 780 on pump gas. I don't care what blower it is or what's done to the engine, really. I mean, maybe if it's cammed, ported, yeah, it's a built motor, but you're going to need compression to keep that power up. When you have that compression, octane's going to be knocking at your door. So, Alfredo Diaz says, today was like story time for car guys. Yeah, I thought it was a little long-winded. I wish I could read a little bit quicker, but not all of you have this article. So for me to comment on things and you guys not see the article, you need to see the article. So I took the time to photograph it and modify it and put it into OBS. So yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, the 750 on pump gas is borrowed time for sure. And what 750 are we talking about? Well, if it's 20% loss, I mean, yeah, it's going to be safer, but it's not going to be 20% loss. You're 10% loss. So take 75 horsepower away from that. Rear wheel, you're talking about 675. That's pushing it. It's getting to the limit. And if you get a batch of bad gas, who's to say you don't have a bad problem that day? Your knock sensors can only pull so much timing. So your tuner is going to be able to only tune you for what you have in the vehicle the day that he calibrates it. If all of a sudden you go off the reservation and something happens to your fueling, then it's hard for them to compensate for because they don't see it. So, Caleb asked, is the 3-valve swap harness live or not? I dropped that video tonight. I'll have to watch that video on the way home. It is not live. You guys were the last prototype harness. And we did end up working through all the issues. And now it's kind of up to the decision of manufacturing it. With all the stuff that's going on right now, we really got to think hard as far as how to manufacture that, because there are some variations to it and what transmission harnesses are going to be used so that we're set up for success. I want that product to be on the market. Everybody here does, but it's got to fit how we sell. It can't be confusing. There's nothing worse than ordering the wrong stuff or getting the wrong shit, especially wiring, because you're probably not going to run into an issue until you fire it up. And then there's a problem, and here comes all the frustration, and we're remote. And it's just hard. It's hard. It's hard to take care of somebody remotely when they're having wiring issues, because nobody wants to do wiring. Wiring sucks. And then trying to diagnose it isn't easy either. So it's a process. We got to work through it. So we want to make sure we don't have any issues launching it. And I just feel like there's going to be plenty of issues launching that product, just because of the age of the vehicles or tech level, the people installing it sometimes. So we'll see. It's on the table. We have some other stuff that's on the table too that needs to happen. So we'll see. But there is no live link for that 3-valve harness. Nothing yet. And I'm going to watch your video. Everybody should watch that video. Let's see here. I'll take one last question here. Okay, here we go. 5017. What are your opinions on On3 T3 setup, and how much can a stock block handle? Currently running a 4 Innovation triple pump ID 1300. So triple pump ID 1300, so you're on E85. On3 T3. Do you mean Gen 3? It would really depend on generation of the engine. But I would say Gen 2, anything north of 700 rear wheel horsepower, you're on borrowed time. Anything north of 700 to 750 horsepower, Gen 3 gets Gen 2. Gen 3 can handle a little bit more power. They make more power because of the compression. But they're still, I mean, once you get up to 800 horsepower, it's very easy to do it. I mean, it's time. It's time to consider hedging your bets because you don't want to wipe out 2 turbos on a gamble. So keep that in mind because when it blows up, all this stuff that comes out the exhaust goes through the turbo. And on top of needing an engine now, you may need 2 new turbos to be rebuilt or replaced. On a Gen 2, man, I mean, 700, 750 horsepower, you're pushing it. And not that there's a set power level. Like if you went 751, it's not going to grenade right away. And on turbos, it seem to be a little bit easier on the engine since the efficiency is a little bit higher. It's not as abrupt. You can probably get away with a little bit more. But there's no guarantee there. There's no guarantee you are going to get away with more. So let's hear Andrew Hanlon. Oh, you guys are talking about some pilot bearing stuff. Okay, cool. All right, guys. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Thank you for joining for Frank's story time and fireside chat on the Hot Rod article on Coyote swaps, 1,000 horsepower and a 94 Mustang. What should I need? What do I do? They didn't even cover like accessory drives and other exhaust options. They're talking about hooker headers and stuff like that and turbos. So, yeah. I give it 3 out of 5 stars, I would say. 3 to 4, 3.5 stars. 3.5 stars. So thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you guys for the super chat support. We'll be here next Wednesday. We'll come with a new topic. We'll see what's going on with the tuning stuff. Again, SCT with London Racing done beginning of March. Don't buy a new SCT right now for London Racing tuning if you plan on making any changes in the future because they won't be able to make them for you. So we'll go ahead and get hooked up with HP tuners, get that RTD. That way we can keep rolling as usual. Thank you guys all for your support. Thank you for being here. If you have any questions, leave a comment in the video. That really helps our analytics. I'll put some links, as many links as I can, in the description of the video pertaining to tonight's topic. Look for some videos from us on that differential project. As you can see from the photo we shared, it was quite exciting. And it's going to be a lot of fun to get that job done. Gen 3 PCM bracket, we'll put that link in there. And thank you everybody for commenting and hanging in there for tonight's longer show than normal. We'll be back next Wednesday. Wish me luck Friday night at the autocross. I'll be in the V8 class. That starts at 6 o'clock. If you're local, be there. It's intense. It's autocross. No survivors. Anyway, you guys have a great night. Be safe. If you're in one of these areas getting impacted by weather, hang in there. Don't do anything silly. Don't do anything I would do. Have a good night, guys.